Hello friends, Coach Bob with you today, and today we are going to be talking about overconfidence and that thing that develops within us as riders, as drivers of automobiles, and just about every endeavor that we take on. There's that moment where we go, man, I got this. But in motorcycling, it's just a little different. So we're going to talk about some ways to avoid that and some things that we can do if we do find ourselves falling into that trap, some things to overcome it, because I think we all fall into it a little bit here and there. I know I certainly do. But before we get started, you know what I'm going to say. Click that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, all that stuff. I really would appreciate it. So a couple of weeks ago, I made a video of my son riding a CanAm Spyder. He had never sat on one. I gave him a 3-minute briefing and he rode it. Did he do a great job? Yeah, he did. He did a great job. Would I think that he is capable of riding it across the country right now? Absolutely. Could he do it as safely as, say, I can? No. He doesn't understand the subtle idiosyncrasies of that motorcycle because he doesn't have the experience on it. Now, sometimes if I ride too much, he may be safer than me, even with less experience, because he sees his blind spots. That's why they call them blind spots. We don't know they are there. That's why they're called blind spots. So overconfidence can happen really quickly on the Spyder because it appears to be something that's easy to ride. And if it's easy to ride, then it must be completely safe, which means there are no hazards that could possibly get in your way, which couldn't be further from the truth. So whether you're talking about a 2-wheeled machine, a 3-wheeled machine, or a 4-wheeled machine, yes, I said it, a 4-wheeled machine, all of these things impact you. Now, starting at the 4-wheeled machine, a car, right? Moving to the 3-wheeled machine, a Spyder or a trike, down to the 2-wheeled machine, a motorcycle, 2-wheeled motorcycle, you're looking at a profile. So we want to think about that as we talk about that. But I had a subscriber talk about how that overconfidence can happen real quickly on the Spyder. So you go out, you take your MSF course, that's your Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. You take your CanAm course, you get your driver's license, and you are ready to go, and you feel good about it. You get your machine, it's beautiful, it's in the garage, you got all your gear, you strap on, you go out, and man, there you are. You're out in the middle of traffic, you're surrounded by cars, a log truck pulls up behind you, he's kind of cramping you. You go into the parking lot, there's cars everywhere, and all of a sudden in your brain you're going, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into? Those are normal feelings. You're going to have them. Coach Vic still gets very antsy when we go through big cities, like when we went through Houston. It was what I would call moderately busy traffic. To her, it was quite overwhelming, though, and she could not wait to get out of the Houston area because of the number of cars and trucks and things like that were there. We all have our level of comfort and discomfort. When you find yourself uncomfortable in a scenario when you're on a motorcycle, try to extract yourself from that scenario as safely and as quickly as possible. So let's talk about some things that could save your life and could keep you from getting overconfident and maybe keep you from developing a blind spot in an area that might be critical to your safety, whether you're on a Spyder, a motorcycle, or a car. You know, it's funny to me, we always talk about balance and acceleration and that sort of thing, but when you look at people, and all you got to do is type in fail Army motorcycle, 90% of the accidents that you see when people are starting to ride a motorcycle are from where they're pulling the throttle all the way back and they can't stop. And the more they panic, the more they pull that throttle back and they get the white knuckles. And the first thing you really need to work on is your braking skills. Not only how to do it, but how it impacts the handling of your machine. When you're on a 2-wheeled motorcycle, when you begin to brake, it makes the motorcycle stand up. When you're on the Spyder, because the Spyder is already standing upright, it doesn't have that same impact on the handling. But it does impact your handling. If you're in a curve, you'll feel it. So work on that braking. When I say braking, not just how to stop. We obviously need to know how to stop, and we need to know how to stop rapidly. But when you're in the middle of a turn and you find yourself going too fast, the ability to feather the brake on the Spyder is you're going around a turn while you're coming off of the accelerator, feathering the brake, slowing the machine down so that you don't feel like you're going to go flying off the side of the road. If you panic and you slam on the brakes, chances are you're going to straighten that handlebar out and you're going to go off into the grass. And that holds true whether you're on a two-wheel or a three-wheel motorcycle. And that can be quite catastrophic. So work on your braking in your turns. Work on, of course, emergency stops. Know how fast the Spyder will stop. Know what it feels like to stop fast. Because when you stop fast, the motorcycle, it plunges down in the front on the Spyder quite aggressively. You want to be prepared for that feeling. There again, I find the Spyder quite forgiving in braking scenarios, but you really need to think about where you are, how fast you can stop. Another thing when you start thinking about braking, think about what is behind you. You always need to be aware of what's behind you, because just because you can stop fast doesn't mean that guy can stop fast. So be careful with that. Be aware of your surroundings. Brings us to number 2. Learn to turn. Now, every vehicle has its turning geometry and the way it was designed to be handled in the turn. For a two-wheeled motorcycle, it's counter steering. For a three-wheeled motorcycle and for a car, it's steering. You want to go left, you turn left. On a motorcycle, you want to go left, you push left. Again, brakes impact the way your vehicle turns. They impact it in a car, they impact it on a CanAm, and they impact it on a motorcycle. You need to practice your turns. You need to know how fast you can take a turn, because there are going to be times where you may have a guy behind you and you want to put some space between you and them. And there's only 2 ways to do it. One is to pull over and let them pass. And the other is to leave them in areas where you may be able to leave them. On a motorcycle and on a Spyder, a lot of times that place is the turn. If you're on a mountain road and there's no way you can get the guy off your rear end and he's just barreling down on you and there's nothing you can do about it, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way and do 100 miles an hour and kill yourself. But if you can safely turn that machine and work your way through a few turns to create that space, you've put yourself in a safer situation. So learn the characteristics of the Spyder and how it handles. One of the things that I've found of great benefit on the Spyder is that body lean. And I've talked about it in sidecar racing. You see that a lot. When you turn, you should lean your body in towards that turn. Create that weight distribution. Move your body off center. So if I'm going left, I'll move my body off center to the left. Look through the turn. The old saying, you go where you're looking. It's quite true, whether it's on a bicycle, a motorcycle, or a CanAm. Normally what you're looking at, and we call that target fixation. You have to be very careful about that. Often you look at where you don't want to go. Look at where you want to go. You see the hazard, look where you need to go to avoid that hazard. Turn, utilize the proper braking and steering characteristics of the Spyder, and you'll do fine. But make sure you practice these things. Practice turning. Practice the shifting of your body weight. Practice looking through the turn. Practice those things. You'll get a lot more confident and you'll learn what your limitations are. So number 3, learn the acceleration characteristics of the Spyder or the motorcycle or the car, whatever you're in. It's really important. You see a vehicle coming down the road and you're only trying to enter a very, very busy roadway. And there's a car and a car and a car and a car. And how many times have you been the person in the car and a guy pulls out in front of you and he just won't go? Now, I've never been an impatient driver, said no one ever, right? And you get angry. Why did this person pull out in front of me only to make me slam on brakes? If they were in such a hurry to go, why didn't they at least maintain the flow of traffic? We've all been there. It's not fun. And when you've got somewhere to go and you're in a hurry, and there are those days, imagine you're that other person. Don't be rude. When you do pull out in front of them, understand the acceleration characteristics of your machine. And as you pull out, you should be able to, the goal is to accelerate to a place to to where this vehicle should not have to slow down as a result of you pulling out into the road. So the idea of being able to get out of the way is really an important one. So think about those things when you are accelerating. Here's a few things you can do. And I'm going to be dropping some tags and cards, and I'll have some links down below of videos that I've made on turning, on accelerating 0 to 60. And I use 0 to 60 a lot because I think that is, if you can understand the characteristics of your Spyder from 0 to 60, you can virtually avoid any scenario unless you just miss the car. Unless you just miss them, you don't see them. So learn to brake, learn to turn, and learn to accelerate properly, and know what your machine is capable of doing and what you're comfortable doing while on it. Now here's one you're gonna say, what did he say? Learn how visible you aren't. Not how visible you are, how visible you are not. Just like we develop a muscle memory as we ride, there are things that happen in the brain as we drive vehicles our whole life. When you drive around next time, count the number of Spyders that you see. Count the number of motorcycles that you see. And then look at the astronomical number of cars that are out there. When a person's driving an automobile and they look in their rear view mirror and their side mirror and they look back, if you're a motorcycle, that's what they see, that narrow profile. On a Spyder, you have that wider profile, but it's still different than a car. So understand their brain, because they're not looking for a motorcycle and a Spyder. You know what they're looking for? They're looking for a car. And their brain is detecting a car. So there are many, many times where someone who is being attentive, who is not on their cell phone, who is not looking at their Sirius XM radio trying to find the cool station of the 500 channels where there's nothing good to listen to. So they could be paying very close attention and still miss you. So understand that, where you ride and how visible you are not. You'll see me as I ride. One of the things I don't like to do, there's a car here, right here in this little rear quarter panel. Either get behind them and get your distance or get around them. You don't want to ride right there, because if you ride right there, they're going to do it. They're going to come over on you. They're not going to see you. It's going to happen. It happens when you're in a car. It's a lot worse on a motorcycle, and it's less worse on a Spyder than it is on a motorcycle, because you do have a larger profile that allows people to see you better. Ryan at Fort 9 did a video talking about riding a motorcycle invisibly. That's how we really should ride. We should ride with the assumption that vehicles can't see us at all. So think about those things when you're out riding, how visible you're not. All right, and here's the last one. This last one is not really a riding skill in the general sense of the word. I would call it defensive riding, defensive driving. You know, how many times do you honk your horn when you're on your Spyder or on a motorcycle? There's rarely a ride that I go on that I don't honk my horn. Here's what happens. You're driving down the road, you see a person coming up to a stop sign. They're looking, but they don't make that eye contact with you. We'll talk about eye contact in a minute too. They don't make that eye contact with you. You know they probably see you, but they may not. Just boop, bump your horn. A lot of times you'll see their head go. That means they probably didn't see you. It surprised them. I do that a lot. Another thing I will do, my dipper and my high beam, click, 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 boop. Click, 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 boop. That draws attention to you. I can tell you, there have been, in my lifetime of riding, and I've ridden a long, long time, 26, 36, 46. Oh my goodness, I just sat here and did some math. It's terrible. This is terrible. I've ridden on the street for 43 years. Man, I didn't realize I was so old. Hang on. Let me sit here and gather myself. I've ridden on the street for 43 years. There are thousands of times, I guarantee you, over that 43-year span, that little horn honk and that little light flash where people have started to go and you do that and you see their car do this? They were getting ready to go. It saved my life. I was in that position where it's too late for me to stop. There is that place where that car is there and you're here. There's that place. There's that distance. As you're closing that gap, there will be that point of no return where you go, at this point, I can only limit the damage by hitting the car at a slower rate of speed. But there's no way to avoid them. There's oncoming traffic. And if they pull out now, I'm going to hit them. You need to be aware of that. Try to get their attention. And that's how you get their attention. Use those lights. Use that horn. It's defensive driving. You're not laying on the horn being rude. You're not flipping people off. Here's another one I do. Normally when I do that, I do this. I do a little wave. Why do I do the wave? I'm looking for an acknowledgement that they heard my horn or that they saw my light. And 9 times out of 10, the person, regardless of what part of the country you're in, regardless of how big the city is, they give the little wave back. Then you know they saw you. And you'll often hear me say, I like to wave at people. That way they can wave at me before they kill me. Because I know I have had people wave at me and then pull out in front of me. It's like it didn't even register that they were going to kill me. Another thing you must do is look for that eye contact. When you're driving and you see a vehicle getting ready to pull out from a side road, look for that eye contact. Are they looking beyond you or are they looking at you? It's a very difficult thing to see sometimes. Just be very careful. Look for that eye contact though. Look for that reaction. I'm going to hit you with one more thing about defensive driving before we finish this section of the video. That is, watch your speed. Here's why. Because of your profile, when folks are looking at you, their depth perception, a lot of times they can't tell how far you are away, how close you are, and your rate of closure. If you're in a 35 mile an hour speed zone doing 70 miles an hour, and they see a vehicle a certain distance down the road, in their brain has said, oh, 35 miles an hour, I have till this point before I don't have to worry about pulling out in front of this person. If they pull out in front of you and you're doing 70 in a 35, you're going to be on that car really fast and they're going to look back and they'll be like, what the heck just happened? They're going to be wondering what they did wrong. And the truth is, we don't want to admit this as motorcycle riders. They did nothing wrong. They judged it based on the situation. They can't determine the parameter in which you're riding your vehicle. They pulled out assuming, looking, this vehicle's doing the speed limit, not doing twice the speed limit. So think about your speed as you're approaching these areas like that. And then you don't want to go too slow, because if you go too slow, people will get impatient with you. They'll start cutting you off. They'll start getting angry and just working their way all around you. And you're putting yourself in harm's way there. You have to ride with the normal flow of traffic. That's the goal. That's the goal. I had someone ask me here recently if I prefer riding alone or riding in groups. And my answer is this. I prefer eating lunch in groups and I prefer riding alone. And the reason is because I know what my limitations are. I know where I'm confident and I know where I lack confidence. And other people who I ride with, if they don't know their limitations, they will put me in harm's way. I don't know what their experience level is. I don't know their background. I don't know how comfortable that they may be way more comfortable than I am and have a much higher level skill than I have. And they can make me feel very uncomfortable due to the proximity of their riding. So if you are riding in a group, and I really do try to do this, be courteous when you pull out. If someone pulls out, you don't have to follow them. You don't have to go right out behind them. The group can separate. It's fine. If you catch them, you catch them, and if you don't, you don't. If you have a road captain behind you going, you need to go faster, 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 and you're not comfortable going faster, wave him by and ride your ride. Don't feel bad about riding your ride. It's okay. It could be the one thing that saves your life. The thing we need to draw from this conversation is you don't need to be overconfident, but you do need to be confident. You need to be confident and competent in your skills and your abilities and the knowledge of the performance characteristics of your machine. So with that said, I want you to do a couple of things for me. First off, I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes. And I want you to do me one more solid. Go out this week, buy the motorcycle of your dreams, eat right, take care of yourself, and remember, if you're not having fun, you are doing it wrong. I'll see you on the road real soon.